This episode is sponsored by Day by Day Book, a guided journal that helps you navigate the ups and downs of change while creating a life you love. For more information on the classic, recovery, or teen day book, go to livedaybyday.com.
I just think if you have that ache, trust it. I always say if you have the ache, you have what it takes. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the best writer right out the gate. You might need support. You might need a ghostwriter. You might need an editor. You might need a class. You might need a support group. You might need therapy. I don't know what you need. Just trust that ache. It will lead you somewhere.
Welcome to Journeys Through Change, a podcast that inspires women to let go of the fear and say yes to possibility. I'm your host, Noelle Van, an author, creator, and empowerment coach who spent years in corporate America helping innovators and leaders ride the waves of change with ease and grace. I now work with women to step into change and unleash the power they have to create a life they love. Whether you're contemplating a change in your career, relationship, health, lifestyle, or anything in between, nothing's off the table. I'll be offering up simple insights to help you manage the ups and downs of change and sharing interviews with successful women who took a leap of faith to create the life they knew they were meant to live, sharing their wisdom, advice, and all the juicy lessons they learned along the way. So get cozy in your favorite comfy chair and let's get started. We talk a lot on the podcast about listening to those subtle little whispers that show up when we least expect them, that are calling us to take a peek around that corner or step into unfamiliar territory to see what's on the other side. For some, these whispers come out of nowhere, leading them to make sweeping changes, and for others, they may have been there since childhood, increasing in volume, urging them to follow the breadcrumbs as they grew closer and closer to their destiny. Linda Sivertsen has been listening to those whispers throughout her life. In fact, she has trusted them enough to follow their calling throughout her career, knowing they were leading her to a place she was meant to be. Books have always been a part of Linda's life, and although she didn't feel she had the chops to be a writer when she was younger, she would salivate over hardcover books that lined her library wall and dream about the magic between the pages, praying her destiny would involve someday penning her own books that would stand the test of time. Linda never felt at home in academia, and after dropping out of college, she started out in LA as a dog walker, caring for the pooches of the who's who in Hollywood. Thinking she had landed her dream job of exercise, sunshine, pups, and celebs, a comment from her sister nudging her to tap into something bigger, along with various signs from the universe that she just couldn't ignore, she stepped into the unknown and began to write. Dedicating herself to the practice, she knew she had a long way to go, but never gave up on her pursuit to make it happen. In 1998, she published her first book, Lives Charmed, Intimate Conversations with Extraordinary People. Since then, she has authored, co-authored, and ghostwritten 11 books, 2 of which are New York Times bestsellers. Known to all as Book Mama, Linda has been leading online and in-person writing retreats in Carmel by the Sea since 2009. She's a midwife to thousands of authors, supporting their journey with grace and humor, and inspiring them to pursue their dreams and share their gift with others. She is relentless with spreading her love of the craft and has built the Beautiful Writers Group, an ever-expanding community of support and resources for writers, and hosts the ridiculously popular Beautiful Writers podcast, a space for authors to share their insights and wisdom about writing, publishing, and, well, really everything in between. Her latest book, Beautiful Writers, is a page-turner that walks us through her remarkable journey while sharing gems from best-selling authors about the twists and turns and unexpected adventures of living a creative life. From TED Talk speaker to app creator, Linda has an unwavering dedication to personal growth, and as a Forest Stewardship Council ambassador, a lifelong passion to care for Mother Earth that shows up in everything she does. Linda, I am beyond excited to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Can you read everything about me fun for all time? Honey, that was so beautiful. Holy smokes.
I don't think I even captured it all. There is so much to say about you, Linda.
Thank you. I don't even know what to say.
Well, hey, this is your life, my dear. This is what we're talking about. So usually I give guests the time to just kind of start where they want, but I wanted to read something that I thought was really interesting and that might help kick it off. I was reading your bio, and at the very end, you say something like, I love writers, books, collaboration, dog and wild horse rescue, and beating the odds. And I love that. The story of beating the odds, you could tackle that in any angle, but tell us more about that.
Oh, I haven't heard that in a long time, and I love hearing it. I just feel like we all feel like the underdog in our lives. And those of us who were born with privilege certainly aren't the underdog when you compare us to the rest of most of humanity. And yet, all in our own way, I think most people feel like a fish out of water. They feel unqualified, not smart enough. That was certainly my sort of bugaboo, not smart enough to realize my publishing dreams. And I quit college 3 classes shy of graduation. And I was from the Silicon Valley. Everybody just wears their intelligence like a badge of honor. And, I went to school. Some of my dear friends, like one of them became the head of DreamWorks Television, won an Oscar. These were like my kids growing up, right? And so I just was like the fun athletic girl who just loved to read about the occult when she got home, and couldn't bother going to school sometimes. That dream, that intuitive thing that said that I was really here to write books and that I was here to help other people write books, people who might have PhDs and masters and be far more credentialed than I feel like I didn't buy into the fact that the publishing industry was going to be cold or menacing or intimidating. I just went, nah, nah, I'm from the sunny coast, the left one, the one where you just have to decide what you want and make it happen.
When you first sat down to write your first book, because you had had a love of books for a long, long time, was there some pivotal moment that it hit you that you needed to do it? I mean, I know your sister kind of urged you. You were doing the dog walking thing. You were like, okay, this is great. And I'm fine. I'm good. Right. What kind of got you to actually sit yourself down?
She went dog walking with me one day and we were in the Beverly Hills and she just said, Linda, my friends and I think that you should be doing more. You're so smart. We think you should be doing more with your brain. And I love my little sister. I swear to God, can't even remember 2 fights in our entire lives. So she was always my best friend. But the fact that she and her little smarty pants UC Berkeley friends thought that I wasn't doing enough with my life really bothered me.
Yeah.
I had the keys and alarm codes for Kirk Douglas's house and Kiefer Sutherland's estate. And as a dog walker, I'd done pretty well with myself. I just was so proud of myself and really happy. I loved my job. So to be told that I'm not, like a whole consortium of people think I'm not doing enough with my life, it's like, are you effing kidding me? I didn't tell her I was angry because the one thing about my sister is to know her is to have a mean bone in her body. But she speaks quickly without always thinking things through. And I knew that's what she was doing. I knew it was coming from love. That actually bothered me more because I thought, well, it's coming from love. Am I shortchanging myself? And so it put me into kind of an existential crisis of, all right, well, if I have a bigger brain than I think I do, what could I be doing with it? And all I ever wanted growing up was to be a writer or an ice skater in the Olympics. And that train had gone off the track. So I was like, all right, well then what am I supposed to do? And I went to Guru Singh for a healing session because he was highly recommended. And he told me I was supposed to be this big writer. And why the hell am I hiding behind my dogs? And I didn't tell him. And I don't know how he found that out. There were no websites back then. And I trusted it. And then I had a dream that night that told me the books to write and how to do it. And I just took dictation for 6 months every night at 3 a.m.
Wait a minute. So you are saying you got some clear messages of what you were going to be doing next?
I saw exactly what to write every night.
No way.
Like dictation for 6 months. Yeah. I was just a completely open channel. I don't know if Guru Singh pushed a button in my psyche, but I was given the titles and format of 6 books. And I picked the one I liked best, Lives Charmed, and I just wrote her like my hair was on fire.
How long did it take you to write?
It was a long process because, first of all, I was such a newbie. I knew nothing. I'm going to be on Oprah in 6 months, right? That's what I thought, because the book felt so destined because of the dream. I really trusted the dream. I could see all the ins and outs. And my husband was great at the time. He was very trusting. He really believed my vision. And I quit my dog walking job to write. I mean, because
Nice.
Oprah in
Yeah.
6 months, like,
You
got
were
me
all
ready.
in.
Yeah, I was all in. And then you get early momentum. I think most of us who start writing, and one of the things I did in Beautiful Writers is I kind of outlined that whole process, because momentum comes in the beginning pretty easily for people. And thank God it does. It helps us just to believe in the keep showing up for our muse and our story. And then after a while, you start to get some messy metal blocks and resistance and hesitation and rejection and all of that, all of which I did. And that's like the through line of the story, is like the stops and starts and the misfires. And it was pretty funny. So the whole thing from idea to publication, I think, was 6 or 7 years. It was a long time.
That's really interesting. I've never really thought about that the very beginning part where you have sort of that burst of creativity, or that ability to put together an outline, you know what it's going to be structured like. Because I feel like I had a similar experience. And then it starts to feel like walking through mud a little bit here and
Oh, yeah. Or broken glass or whatever. Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Right. So you write the first book, and I know that you moved to New Mexico.
Yeah. Off the grid.
Yes, totally off the grid. Tell us a little bit about that.
I had the dream to write the book, and then I had this
Okay.
meditation. So Guru Singh's trying to get me to meditate. So I'm not very good at it, but I try. And I keep having this recurring vision of a Native American that keeps showing up. Red bandana, long black braids, very distinctive face. And he just keeps showing up in my meditations. And I'm thinking, who are you? And at the time, I wanted more diversity in the interviews that I was doing. By that point, I had interviewed Paul Williams and Catherine Oxenberg and a bunch of white people. And I really wanted diversity. I'm like, I got to mix this up. So my sister's now husband, they were dating at the time, was really good friends with Lou Diamond Phillips. And they had just made the movie Sioux City together. And I called Lou and I said, I'm seeing this face. Who, is it you? Like, should I interview you for the book? And he said, it's not me. It's Thomas One Wolf. And he's Suquamish. He lives in New Mexico. You need to go visit him. He's really hard to get to. He doesn't have a phone, but he hangs out at the diner sometimes. I mean, just like this whole rigmarole. And I eventually got the diner on the phone. They tracked him down. I got him to agree to an interview. I took one look at him. It was exactly the man from my meditations, including the red bandana. And he took one look at me. He said, welcome home, sister. And we bought land right next door to him like 2 days later and moved there full time and raised our kid off the grid for 5 years.
So you didn't interview him, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I ended up becoming best friends with him. He became like my son's uncle, and he was a dear, dear friend and lifelong mentor and bestie.
So you're there for 5 years. What made you decide to go back on the grid?
So when Lives Charm was purchased, I got a publisher finally, and I went to Los Angeles to do press. And while I was there, my son at the time was 9. He was 9. And while we were there, he freaked out. He was like, Mom, neighbors, friends, after school sports. Can I go to school here? Like, wow, I need people. He was in a 1-room schoolhouse in New Mexico with only a few kids his age. And he just got so excited by the bigness of LA. My husband was an actor and really needed to be back there more anyway for auditions. So we moved back.
Is that when you started Book Mama, or did you do that later?
We had been back to LA for a couple of years. My son was a senior in high school by this point. So we had been back in LA for 8 years, 7, 8 years.
Okay.
And I'm teaching a retreat in Carmel. After my husband left, I thought, okay, I can't do the ghostwriting, the one-on-one stuff anymore. I've got to start teaching to more than one person at a time. It was too labor intensive and I was too tired. So I thought, well, I'll start teaching retreats. And I did, and it was going really well. I was so grateful. And then one day I was in Carmel, and Danielle Laporte and I were working on something called Your Big Beautiful Book Plan. And I thought, oh gosh, I need a name, an online name. And nobody can spell Sivertsen. Nobody can pronounce Sivertsen. They put L's in it and Steins and all sorts of things. So I was like, I can't be Linda Sivertsen because nobody will ever find me. So I need a name. And so I asked the group, in retreats, as you know, what we do is we brainstorm for each other. So I put it to the group. I said, guys, I need a name, an overarching umbrella for my business. And I need it to be fun and playful, but a little edgy. And I need it to be memorable. The domain's got to be, findable and available and all of it. I gave them like 24 hours, but nothing felt like it was it. So I went to bed that night in Carmel, and I said a prayer to God. I was like, okay, I'm under the gun. I need a name, and I need it tomorrow, and I need to wake up and remember it. Because that's the thing about dreams. Like, you might have the best dream in the world, but you might forget it, right?
Totally.
So I woke up in the morning and I heard Book Mom in it, and I totally disregarded it. It was like, whatever. That's like the most obvious whatever name ever. Totally ignored it. And then about an hour later, I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Book Mom, that's so good. And I looked it up, and it was available. What was so interesting was a ton of people were using it. They were using it on social media. They were using it all over the place, mostly people reading to kids. But nobody had forked over the $800 to the Russian domain company who owned it. So I offered them $500, and they said yes.
It is such a great name. So you did one-on-one before then?
For years, I was a ghostwriter. I was a ghostwriter where I would write people's books or advise on their books, do a lot of developmental editing. And it was so much fun. And, that's how I hit the New York Times, was as a ghostwriter or a co-author. But after a while, wow, I mean, you're just giving your all to somebody else's creative journey. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me.
Okay, so we're like 2009 now, 2010, after you started the retreats.
My first retreat was 2009.
I just love I've been to your retreats. I've done your virtual retreats.
Oh my gosh.
I only mention this because it is a memory I have that is embedded in my brain of arriving in Carmel and feeling that sense of like, what the hell am I doing? I can't believe I'm like, who am I to even think I'm going to write a book? And out you come from the house into the driveway, like as if we had known each other for years. It was like immediately the most comfortable, welcoming, open experience I've ever had. That's the magic of you and how you are with all of your people. I feel like you open yourself up to people and then you don't let go, right? I mean, you're there and you're there for them in every way, shape, or form in terms of helping them make their dream a reality. So anyways, that's just my little side note about Carmel.
That's so sweet. Thank you.
You are one of a kind. You really, truly are.
Most people have the same issues. They've got this burning desire to tell their story. They've been working it for a long time, but almost in secret. Very few of the retreaters have read their work to anybody, sometimes to a husband, a partner, but very rarely. Most of the time when they come to Carmel, they're reading it out loud for the first time to other human beings. The beauty of that process is that when you move a room, I mean, it's not a big room, it's 5 of us plus the person reading. So 6 people, I keep it very, very small. But when you move that room of people and they're laughing and crying at what you've written, you get it that there's a reason why you're so moved to do it, because it's moving. And I think that's why the retreats have been so constant over these years, because that process works. They need community. They need to be seen. They need to be held. They need to be told lovingly when something doesn't work and why it doesn't work, but here's how to twist it so that it would be ideal. And That process is so magical. And the reason why, you felt enveloped and loved when you got there is because I'm so grateful that people show up. I'm so grateful that people trust me. Somebody at one of the retreats said, Linda, I love you because you're so insecure and secure at the same time. And when you have that childhood wounding that I have of not feeling smart enough and the shame of quitting school, and I will always feel like the luckiest person with their intellectual babies. I know I'm good. I finally figured that out. It took a long time for me to trust it because so much of what I do is intuitive, and I didn't know that was something to be proud of. I just thought it was so normal, but it's not. Everybody's intuitive, but I don't think it's necessarily normal to build a business about because you've learned to trust it. That's where I'm really proud of myself. But boy, that love that you felt was genuine. First of all, nobody comes unless they're pre-screened and invited. And you were pre-screened, and I knew who you were, and I adored you instantly. So by the time we get there, I always feel like I'm sisters with these people for years. It's a kinship. It's fast.
And do you feel like that's kind of still the core of what you do?
Forever and a million years. Yeah. I started out as a writer. I love writing deeply, deeply, but nothing is like that experience of collaborating with other people and holding their stories. And that whole two or more gathered is really real. When you put your minds together, the brilliance that the collective comes up with is so fulfilling and surprising and magical. And I said to my husband once, I was like, baby, I love you. And it's not enough. It's not enough. I mean, I need these groups. He's like, hey, I can pay for us. Please retire. Let's spend the rest of our lives bucket listing. And I said, I can't totally disassociate from this thing that I've built because it feeds a part of me that you can't. He's not a group of women. He's a very masculine,
unfortunately,
65-year-old man who is so phenomenal and brilliant and fabulous in a million ways, but he's not a group of women.
As we all know, change is inevitable. Sometimes it comes out of nowhere, leaving us to pick up the pieces and navigate our way through the unknown. Other times it's a decision we've made to step into a bigger version of ourselves or find more joy or fulfillment in our lives. Day by Day book was designed to help you face the discomfort of those shifts in life that are pushing you to that next level of growth and learning. It's a guided journal with a simple tracking system to manage your daily well-being during challenging times, setting you up for success no matter what life throws your way. Join our community of over 15,000 changemakers and get started on your daybook journey today. The time is now to step into change to create a life you love. To get your Day by Day book, go to livedaybyday.com. Now, I want to talk about this trajectory now so you then develop the group, which is for women who are writing, are aspiring writers. It spans the gamut, right? Within this group that you've held for many years.
Danielle Laporte and I started that in 2015, the same year that we started the podcast.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I knew it was some similar timing.
Yeah.
But the podcast, which I think is, once again, it is not lost on me whenever I look at the things that have happened throughout, like you grew up dog walking for celebs, and you are now at this other point in time in your career where you are talking with so many different authors, and so you have so many different vantage points now to tap into. How did that come about?
When we did your big, beautiful book plan together, she always said, I think we should do a membership community. And so one day we just went for it. When we were trying to decide what to offer the members, aside from what I still offer, which is a Facebook group, and there's a weekly newsletter, and there's write-ins, there's all sorts of things that we offer. Sometimes there's expert interviews, but we really wanted to do something that was just like nobody else was doing. And this was really before, in 2015, I didn't know anybody who had a podcast. Can you imagine? I mean, it was just such a different time. So I said, Dee, why don't we interview some of our favorite authors, the ones that we know, I said like Martha Beck we knew, and Jillian Lauren and Sarah Manguso. And I thought I could probably get Liz Gilbert, who was becoming a friend, and I did. So I said, let's start with like 4 to 6 interviews. She said, great. And I said, then we'll do 1 interview a month for the group. We put 4 or 6 of them in the can. And then I thought, wait a minute, these are like really valuable. Maybe they should go to more than 500 people. We had 500 people in the group then. It's smaller now. But I said, I think these should be a podcast maybe. And she said, good, whatever you want to do. I mean, Danielle's so killer that way. She like doesn't partner with people, but if she partners with you, she really like flows with it. Just be creative and she'll go, okay.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this should be a podcast. She's like, okay. So I wrote the intro. I had her speak it because she was way more well known than me, and she had that velvety voice. So she spoke the intro, and we launched it with her platform. My platform was infinitesimal compared to hers, and we hit like number 6 on all of iTunes that day. And then it made it easy to get whoever we wanted as guests. We wrote a really good pitch letter. And, when you have momentum, that's when to keep it going, right? You just keep sending out those requests. And we just had so much good fortune. It was so delightful. So when, she said from the beginning, you got me for a year, that's it. When she left, I thought, oh my God, I either have to quit or make it bigger. And I was about ready to quit. And I thought, oh, I'll try. And I pitched Glennon Doyle and she said yes. And we made it significantly bigger.
You have had more people on there now that I'm like, oh my God, Linda. I mean, when you had Martha Beck on, I was done. I was like, I can't. And then Tom Hanks, I was like, I'm done. You've got them all. But the thing that's so great about that's good to know, because I didn't know how the Danielle thing went, because I knew that you guys you did it in tandem. And then she joined a couple times after that. Like she would join here and there. But,
yeah, I'll have her on like if she has a new book out or something.
Yeah. But I remember you telling me, didn't they pick it up on like some airline?
American Airlines, yeah.
Yes.
Streaming on American Airlines. I need to call them. Thank you for the reminder, because during COVID, they discontinued that. And then they were like, but don't worry, we're turning it back on. And then I never checked. And I thought, it's still on my website. I actually need to make sure it's still on. And if not, go, hey guys, Can you turn us back on?
Are you doing it every week? You do it every week, every month? Or what's the cadence?
Until I published Beautiful Writers in 2022, I did the podcast pretty much every month, 2015 to 2022. That was tough. I mean, because I want to say I put about 50 hours into every episode. It's a big job. I think that's one of the reasons why it has been successful, is that I really work hard to make sure that they're produced in such a way that the clip is good. They keep going. There's no like, how you doing? Oh my God. I cut all that. Nobody needs to hear that stuff. So I feel like it's worth it to work that hard and to read all their books before they come on. And so that I'm hyper over prepared. But it takes a lot to do that. But, they're expensive to produce. I have a sound engineer I pay, and so now I only do 3 or 4 episodes a year. And even that feels like a lot.
It's no joke. I mean, you can tell you have very, very rich interviews. Like you can tell that not only just in the intros, that in and of itself, you encapsulate so many. It's kind of like, what is the writer's studio? Not the writer's, the actor studio that James Lipton. Yeah. You ask the questions that they're like, how did you even know that my mom said that to me when I was 5? Like you have that kind of information about it.
I do.
Which is great. And I'm sure that makes it, for you, it's more enjoyable too, because you feel like you're well prepared, but obviously you're also meeting with people that you want to.
Well, and then when they tell you later, Glennon Doyle said, or Abby Wambach said, or Zibby Owens said, or over and over I hear, oh, it's my favorite interview of all time. When they tell you that, then you go, you know what? I'm doing it right. When they call you and Stephen Pressfield texts you and says, "Oh my God, I'm listening to it right now and I love it." Like you
Yeah,
can't buy
that's
that. You
priceless.
can't buy that.
No.
It's priceless. So for me, when I was a ghostwriter, I had a rule. And the first delivered a chapter to a client, I knew that I would get something wrong. It wouldn't be right. But the rule was stay in it until they sent you that email that says, "Oh my God, it's brilliant." And I knew I'd always get there, and it always happened. And that's for me what it's all about. No matter what I'm doing, I need it to be world class. And if it's not world class, I don't want to do it.
Oh, I mean, it's a great standard to hold yourself to. That's for sure.
It could be a quick way to poverty too. I mean, I don't know. You know that saying, like, if you're waiting for it to be perfect, good is better or
Oh, yeah.
something. Good is,
Done is better than perfect or something. Done is better
thank
than
you, something
perfect.
like that. Yeah, I'm the opposite of that.
You're driving yourself to do the best. And I think, especially when you think about being put in front of some of the people that you have been in front of, you ask those questions that those of us that are listening want to know, right? It's like you come from the perspective of the writer, but you have this way of inviting them in that you feel like you get even more out of them.
I was interviewing Rhonda Byrne of The Secret this morning, and I've been researching her for a long time, but I still never feel ready. So this morning I woke up at 4 a.m. and I just literally was downloading all these questions for her. They were just flying in so many questions for her, and like 2.5 hours worth of downloads. Didn't even have time to really read them all and figure out. So I still winged it. I still totally winged it, but it keeps you young. It keeps you alive. I feel like I live a little bit on the edge.
Well, but isn't there a little bit of that adds to your creativity? Like, I almost feel like you're going through that exercise before you're opening your mind up to it. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to ask all those questions, but you're kind of heightening your curiosity before the fact. And then when you get there, that's the energy you bring.
I think so.
So, Linda, beautiful writers, let's talk about this book, because as I was getting ready for this, I went back and I got sucked back into it again. I think I told you I read your book in 2 nights, maybe 3 nights. I'm not kidding. It was like,
Wow.
seriously,
That's a lot.
maybe it's because I know you. And so I was kind of like, oh my gosh, but it was such a page turner to me. And it really, truly walks you through your journey from your first book on, but also just there's so much richness in what you bring with authors, and they're bringing in well, tell us a little bit about it. I'm going to let you tell us.
It's really a different kind of book. It's a couple of things. Each chapter starts with a pain point specific to writers. So the first chapter is, to school or not to school. Are you supposed to go to school? Do you need a degree? The second one is making a living before it pays to write. And each chapter is kind of like the stages that I took. So it's very much a memoir. It's a writing memoir with all the twists and turns, like the rejection and finding an agent and what the hell is a book proposal and all the different things I experienced. But then throughout, I have these boxes where I pull excerpts from the interviews from the podcast from my favorite authors in the world, what their stories were, their wisdom on each topic. So, how did Danny Shapiro get an agent? How did Ann Patchett get an agent? What were their stories? And then at the end, after my memoir and their stories, then there's takeaways. So it's very much an instructional how to be a writer book.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted it to be a beach read. I wanted the stories to be cinematic and to transport you.
Yes, which they definitely do. And I feel like there's you have this wonderful way of interweaving your stories. There's just a good rhythm to it. And I would find myself at a certain point, like, okay, now they're going to come in and give me some advice, but I want to know what's going on. Like, what's the next step? Because your story itself is just amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I love the book. And actually, anybody who's listening, I think the best part about the book for me was that it was, like you said, instructional in a way, but just it brought everything sort of closer to home in terms of just if you're thinking about writing a book, you're kind of going along with you for the journey, which makes you feel a little less alone. because you went through a lot of ups and downs. But Linda, first of all, I want to thank you so much. And I'm going to ask you one last question before we close this. Is there any words of wisdom you would give to someone who knows that they have that book in them, and yet they haven't taken that step? They haven't taken the leap, or even just, thought about what that might look like?
My mother told me on her deathbed that she wasted her life. And she had a beautiful life. She wanted to be a journalist. She wanted to be a writer. She wanted to be a storyteller and was too afraid. And boy, did that teach me a lesson. I just was like, I'm afraid too, but no effing way am I going to let it stop me, because I don't want the deathbed regret. I don't want to do that to my child, because that was scarring. No offense, Mom, love you. And it's a good teachable, but oh my God, that was painful to witness. I have since had people call me. One woman I'm thinking of, she was so excited to write her memoir. I didn't hear from her for 10 years. And I found out she died recently. And the person who told me she died said she was still talking about her memoir as she was dying. I just think if you have that ache, trust it. I always say if you have the ache, you have what it takes. It doesn't mean that you're going to be the best writer right out the gate. You might need support. You might need a ghostwriter. You might need an editor. You might need a class. You might need a support group. You might need therapy. I don't know what you need. Just trust that ache. It will lead you somewhere. And it might just lead you to just some really awesome healing. It might lead you to leaving a legacy just on your computer that your kids get to keep, that they never would have had you not done it. I mean, it doesn't have to be epic and it doesn't have to be public. But if you have that ache, just take some steps to find out what it's telling you.
I love that. And I think that you bring up something that's so, so true. And that is, writing is a very healing practice. So like you said, whether you're going to publish the great American novel or not, doesn't matter. Get it out, up and out on paper. And you might be really surprised.
Everyone who comes to my retreat says the same thing. Like, they just feel like they're good enough. I always say, the first night when we're at dinner, as I say, how many of you wanted to not come at the last minute? How many of you have already called somebody and said, I shouldn't be here, I'm not good enough? And pretty much it's across the board. Most people feel like they're not ready or they shouldn't be there. And the very next day, as everybody starts reading, I watch people read when they follow everybody, and their necks get bright red and their ears get bright red, because they're terrified. They feel like they're not good enough. And the shocking thing is, I don't hardly ever have anybody come to a retreat who isn't brilliant. The people who aren't brilliant don't spend the money and travel. They know they're not ready. People who are really effing talented, they know what talent sounds like, and they know how much work is involved, and they're terrified that they don't even come close. And they're always shockingly good,
Yeah.
and so different. There's never two voices that are the same. Creativity is endless and masterfully surprising. So I would say odds are you're way better than you think you are, and keep trusting it and get some support. Get people around you to tell you how good you are. It'll make it more fun.
Linda, it is such a joy. I don't want this to end because I love you so much. You have my favorite job in the world. You have such a fun job. It's kind of amazing to watch you.
I do. I have the best job. Everyone tells me that. They're like, I want your job. Quits college right beforehand, have a bunch of shame about it, and then be super, super hungry, and you'll figure it out.
But you were made for it. That's the thing. That's what's so great about it. You were totally made for what you're doing right now. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
You too. Ditto, girl. I mean, you left the corporate thing.
We'll see, right? We're just putting one foot in front of the other, right? That's what it's all about.
But you're so good. You're doing such a good job. I love, 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 love it. I love your voice. Every time I hear your voice, I listened to, you interviewed Mercedes.
Yes,
Was she at your
Mercedes,
retreat?
love. Yes.
Oh, it was such a good interview.
I've been wanting to connect with her for a while now, just because, kind of following her journey a little bit.
Yeah, it was beautiful. So keep the inspiring stories coming.
I will. And Linda, thank you so much. It is always so great to talk to you. And I'm just excited to see what comes next. Because every month there's probably something new coming up in your life that we're going to hear about.
Oh my God. Yeah, fun stuff. I think next month the audiobook is out. We're doing a
Great.
Fix-It day next week. Yeah. So we're putting the final touches on it. So I'll finally hear it. So we'll see.
I can't wait. All right, Linda, thank you. Love you. Talk to you later.
Love you.
Okay, well, that's it for now. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Journeys Through Change podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or really wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us and leave a review if you've enjoyed this episode. And share it with a friend or on social media to spread the good word, so more women like you can find us and join in on the fun. For more information on the podcast or Day by Day book, go to livedaybyday.com.